Melbourne property prices somewhere in the next 6 to 18 months are going to rocket up. Hey, thinking back to your sport days, what is the biggest lesson you took from that you now apply to your life and business?
Mate, it's a great question. I think the biggest application from pro sport into business that has really helped me.
Okay.
So what I mean by that is I really I love it, but I didn't understand why there wasn't more rest I love it, but I didn't understand why there wasn't more rest I love it, but I didn't understand why there wasn't more rest I love it, but I didn't understand why there wasn't more rest in the industry too. Like it, when I was a professional athlete, you train hard, but then there's time to recover. If you just trained every single day and exerted everything you had in the tank, you stayed through that up and down burnout kind of thing. And I noticed that a bit in the industry, in real estate. So when I started the business, I always made intentional practices to work hard, but then also recover too and look after my energy management. So I believe a lot of the success in business and what I've seen other successful business owners and entrepreneurs have is they got a good, not balance, work-life integration where they put their health and wellness kind of as a top pillar, I've noticed. So I call them like corporate athletes.
Yeah.
It's
funny you say that about, when you were saying that about real estate agents, the first thing I thought is, it's kind of like the personal training industry where everyone, they're wanting to look good, they're go. Like there's more enthusiasm than you can poke a stick at. But, probably 8 out of 10 of them are making bugger all money and are very bad at their job and blow up and burn out. So how do you manage that in your professional life now? Like, do you have a routine or how do you go about it?
Yeah, so I am huge on routine. Again, that's an application from sport. When you come from pro sport, your weeks are all done in advance, and you got your massage at this time, your weights at this time, your skill session, the ARVA, your ice bar. So everything's mapped out. When you leave professional sport, you don't have that schedule to lean on. You have to create it yourself. So I notice a lot of pro athletes, especially in the NRL, I notice they either go two ways. They either kind of keep that regimented behavior and keep actually or find that consistency again. Because it's like they lost that schedule mentality. So one thing I'm really big on anyone transitioning from schedule mentality. So one thing I'm really big on anyone transitioning from sport into the world of business is your application of having routines and some sort of structure is definitely a key pillar. I always believe, things are going to go left, right. You have to be agile. You can't structure everything, but just having a structure, I think definitely helps for sure. I think from a pro sport into, I guess, the real world, one of the biggest hurdles any ex-athlete will make or try to get over is the identity piece. Who am I outside of, Matt, a professional NRL player? Like, it's true. Yeah, every barbecue, every conversation you have with friends. Oh, how was the weekend's game? Oh, you played so well. Or it would have been for you. Like you performed so. How'd you come? Well, how'd your race go?
Yeah.
So everything was wrapped up in this whole world and what you do. Every athlete, would struggle with it. I struggled with it myself, and I always call it like the 24-month kind of lull, where I always call it like the 24-month kind of lull, where it's 2 years, I think, on average. I think it takes an athlete to kind of just find their feet, new routines, new behaviors, new identity, new skill sets is a big one too.
Yeah.
And I think in that 24-month period is just having grace for self and just understanding it's all part of the journey. So if any athlete is listening to this, and I'm sure you attest, I attest too, that just be easy on yourself in the first 1 to 2 years, because you can't expect to just pick up where you left off, just like an athlete in the real world, right?
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny hearing the same. It's like the same emotions, but different story said back.
It is, hey, yeah. And no matter what, we've worked with some Olympians, some big name Olympians as a client base. We work with pro NRL soccer, and they've all got the same struggles post career. So it's really interesting that it's a widespread thing, but it isn't to just dust yourself up and keep going, right?
Yeah, when you haven't got that, like when you need help, it's difficult to. I mean, your ego's really got to take a step backwards, and I need help.
Yeah, big time.
The 2 years thing, when I think back, it was probably about 2 years, until I sorted it out, and for me, I put a lot of that effort and energy into business. Yeah. And then if I look at our rise from sort of 20...
It's also mindful is like me as a person, I'm not a business owner. I'm Matt Srama, who happens to have a business too. So doing things that kind of still keep me competitive, still keep the adrenals high, keep me pushing the barriers of like what's possible. But I also don't get too caught up in, like I always say, I set goals, but I've realized it's actually the journey to the goal, that the progression and who I'm becoming versus actually attaining the goal nearly. So that's where I try to attach myself now, as like me as a person, as long as I'm Matt Srama, my authentic self and a great human being and doing my best. Business is a pillar of what I do. It's not who I am.
Yeah. I think I'm probably a bit more mentally unhealthy than you.
No.
Because I've just switched out athlete Leigh for business owner Leigh. No, I was actually thinking about it the other day because, being in business is hard. I haven't been rattled for quite some time. And, this identity of Leigh, the business owner, was sort of was shoved in my face, where I'm like, you know what, I've got to get some more outside of this. I can't be spending 12, 14 hours a day either at work or thinking about work. Like, I need to, get some good friendships and, spend more time surfing or whatever it is, because I like that. I'm Leigh Anderson, who happens to own a business. And
the cool thing is, and this is what I love, any transitional athlete coming into business, is all the skill sets you had in sport are actually the key principles you need to succeed in business. And I think if you harness that and put your energy towards business out, you will be successful 100%. Like if you're a professional athlete, triathlete, NRL, soccer, swimmer, Olympian, like you are in the minuscule percent of people out there. And I realize a lot of it is what's between the ears. It's kind of like how you showed up every single day in the training sessions but you just kept at it. And I'm sure you being a triathlete, like you would have just been at that grind for not days, like for years, just kind of chipping away.
But this is the thing, right? So people come up to you and they're like, "Oh, you're so lucky, you're so naturally gifted." But what most people don't realize is I was at that forever, and I was never naturally good at anything.
Yeah.
I came fourth in everything. That was my natural talent. But what it taught me, and this was from when I was a kid, was it taught me that I have to work in order to get it. And then, I mean, sport didn't just teach me about business. It taught me about life and myself.
Big time.
And probably the biggest lesson that I got out of it was, if I set my mind to it and I just apply time and pressure in that it doesn't matter how I feel, if I just stick at it, I can achieve almost anything. And if I don't quite know what I'm doing, find someone else who's got what I want and just mimic them. Yeah. And I will end up with something that approximates their success. But I think what people quite often miss is they just look at the end result and they're like, "Oh no, hold on a minute! Like you did years in order to get there." And that sort of thinking, I think you can apply to anything.
Big time, yeah.
Anyway, let's not turn this into a sports podcast. So, tell me a bit about your business. So you started in 2020. What are you guys doing?
Yeah, so the Srama Group, we specialise in helping essentially buyers who are looking to either invest or buy their owner occupy or holiday home on the Gold Coast. So we've got a specialist team that runs basically from Cooley, Tweed Head, all the way up to pretty much Hope Island and in between. So we basically advocate for the buyers out there. We represent them, work on their criteria, negotiate due diligence, the whole shebang, start to finish. And our specialty is, the Gold Coast region. So we've got a really great team of buyers agents who are immersed in each pocket of the Gold Coast. So that's been a real big advantage for the buyers who work with us, is they're getting, I guess, the effective black book of contacts for all of our buyers agents, but also their skill sets too. And the key thing I'm loving around the Gold Coast is it's just exploded as a market. So it's exciting being a buyer's agent, but it's also exciting if you're getting in the market too.
Why does someone need you? Why don't they just go out and do it themselves? I can go to open homes. Why do I need you? Why do I need you to go there?
Yeah, I've really unpacked it, because in my personal life, I love buying property, and I get real enjoyment out of it too. And what I've identified, looking from the outside in at why some of the clients work with us, I see it's like they want to save time, they want to save stress, and they want to save money. Mm-hmm. And I think the busyness as well of people these days is like they've got so much on their plate as well. So the ability to have someone do it for them, that's going to achieve a better result as well. I find that's why a lot of people are using buyer's agents now. I think it's just like the world we live in now. Like people, they want to save time, they want to save stress, and they want to save money. And if it takes someone else doing it for them, I'm finding more people are receptive to that now.
Talk to me about the stress. What's the stress that you take out?
Yeah, the biggest stress I find most home buyers on the Gold Coast have, it's nearly two. The two big ones. Number one is the stress of property, like managing all the properties. So what I mean is they could be getting, the average buyer might get to say 3 to 5 a week. Some active buyers out there might get to 5 to 10, and the ability to manage all them, the callbacks with the agents, see where that one's at, put a contract on that one, the agent calling you're missing their call. It's just kind of managing all the potential properties and shortlisted properties whilst managing life, I noticed was one. And then number two, the biggest stress is, well, I see the property I like, but how do I know I'm buying it at a good price and it's actually a clean property in terms of due diligence as well? So people sometimes can get scared of either overpaying or buying something that has something severely wrong with it too. So they get stressed about that, I've found. Yeah. So they're probably the big ones, is the busyness factor of balancing it with general life, and the stresses of, am I overpaying? Am I buying something that is a lemon?
Yeah. And I find what I find, so we're probably at a slightly different end of the market with first home buyers, but a lot of those same stresses and emotions are there. And what I find with people is, often people talk about fight and flight, but that stress, what I see that most commonly do is people freeze because they're like, I don't know what to do. And then it goes in the too hard basket. We'll deal with it later on. And for us in the first home buyer space, what we then see is, people get into their late 30s, their early 40s, and then the pressure's really on. The pressure's really on to buy a home, but they don't know where to start. And the other thing is, the longer that you leave it, like if you let's use an example from the Gold Coast. If you were thinking about buying a property in 2020 and you put it off until 2025, which is now, how much more would you be paying?
Oh, I mean, only in the last 12 months, I used the example, I think it was like 13%, roughly. Say 12% for easy figures. So pretty much every single month you were out of the market for the last 12 months, you can nearly add 10 grand onto each reoccurring month. Yeah. So that's what I always say. The ability on the Gold Coast is to get in the market before getting priced out of the market. Because what I notice with first home buyers is they have their dream criteria and they're not understanding that hot markets move. The first home buyer market especially is one of the most competitive.
Yeah.
Because if you think on a mass level around Australia, and most people are in that sort of price points, right? The affordable sort of price points. So those homes are moving like rapidly. So by the time the first home buyer gets their feet on the ground, starts understanding things, they get scared, and then they stop for a month, and they're nearly priced out of the suburb that they started looking at the start of the journey, which is really unfortunate.
So and I talk about this in the book and to our staff a lot, if you wait to buy a property, I think there's three things that are guaranteed for you. You will pay more money for a smaller block of land, which is further away than what you're looking at now. And that's the best case scenario. The worst case scenario is you just get priced out of the market completely. So again, I often talk to our clients about the property market being a pyramid. So if you imagine a pyramid at the top, so at the top, we've got your properties worth several million. There's not that many of those. There's not that many buyers. It's kind of the luxury market. And then down the bottom of the pyramid, we have your affordable homes. And you have, well, not necessarily the most stock available, but you should, you've got more stock available there, but you have more buyers vying for that stock.
More competition,
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
And the thing with the pyramid is the bottom of the pyramid is constantly moving up. So the bottom of the pyramid is constantly moving up. And that's what I'm talking about, where people can find themselves priced out completely. And this is a situation that I'm not sure. I mean, this situation has always existed, but it hasn't been a reality for as many people as it is now, where an epic percentage of the population, if they don't act soon, could find themselves never able to buy a property in their lifetime. Or if they are, they're going to be living in like a one-bedroom dog box, trying to raise a family in it, because that's all that they can afford. The way, and I mean, we could have a long conversation about the way the government's managed the property market in Australia, but whether they've managed it well, mismanaged it, whatever, the reality is we're here now, and you've got to play the cards that are in front of you. And what I find that people are missing is that urgency, because the prices keep going up. And then all of the government intervention to try and fix it. So, for example, we've just had the budget come out, and in the budget, you've got Labor talking about Help to Buy, where they're like, hey, we will take a 30 or 40% stake in your home, so you don't need to service for as big a loan to get into the property market. And in Brisbane, for example, I think the price cap on that's going to be $1 million, and in Melbourne, maybe 900,000. Someone fact check me, because that could be wrong. But the point of this is, that's great, and it will bring a whole heap of buyers into the market who can't afford to buy now. But nothing's been done about the supply side of the equation. So you can go to the bank on this, that the median house price all of a sudden will go up over $1 million, because that's where the basement is now, because that's where everyone can afford to get in. And even with the Liberals are talking about letting you pull 50 grand out of your super so you can get in. I'm not sure that's a great option either, because we've already got things like the single parent first home guarantee. Like you don't, for a lot of properties, particularly if you're going under 700,000 in Queensland or under 800,000 in Melbourne, you don't need that much money. We were just working something out for a client this morning. So in order to get into a $700,000 property in Brisbane, they needed $5,986. That was all the deposit that they needed. So, pulling 50 grand out of your super isn't going to assist you with the servicing problem that you've got. God, I've just gone on a big rant. I've completely forgotten what I was talking about.
Mate, everything you're saying makes complete sense. And one thing I love, you pretty much nailed it there, Leigh, around, I always look at the bottom of the market, how close is it meeting the middle of the market? Because right here on the Gold Coast, like, you're exactly right. There were, say, units, for example, your 2-bed, 1-bath, your boutiques close to the beach. feels like yesterday they were all like 300-400 grand, like
Mate,
just yesterday.
You couldn't
Like,
give them away.
Yeah. And now what happens is, you're exactly right, that sort of bottom market kind of starts to meet the middle of the market, and then everything kind of keeps going up. So with, I guess, wages and things like that, they're moving at a slower level compared to some of these hot areas, just based on purely supply and demand. So I love what you said. I definitely believe for first home buyers, the most expensive thing that they're doing right now is inaction. Like, literally, and it's procrastination. So that's why I say to every first home buyer out there is, your procrastination and limited ability to actually secure something with confidence is actually costing you more than buying something, which is generally the fear and emotion they have is, I'm going to buy something and overpay, or I'm going to buy something it's a dud. I always say is, the best investment you could make then is maybe getting help to secure that thing, because at the end of the day, most first home buyers are doing exactly that. They're costing themselves hundreds of thousands month on month, year on year, because they're still in the same position they were 6 months ago.
So I think logically, most people have a gut feeling that that's right.
Yeah.
But then what we've got is all of this emotion that's within it. And I think when I was younger, I was really lucky where I had a couple of people who were quite forceful in my development, where they just went, just do something. I'm sick of hearing you talk. Any decision is going to be better than the no decision you're making now. But it was A, lucky I had them, but B, lucky I listened to them, because there are a whole heap of other people in my life with well-meaning intentions who were telling me everything to be worried about. Oh, be careful of this. And it's like what you're talking about. Oh, am I going to buy a lemon? Oh, am I going to overpay? Where I used to work for this investment company, and they ran seminars, and when the property investing seminars. And this guy, when he'd kick off the seminar, he'd go, who in here owns a property? And, a few people put up their hands. Who owns 2, 3, 4 plus? And there would always be a couple of people who had multiple properties in there. And he would ask them without knowing them and without knowing their answer. He would go, what is your one regret? And to a T, every single one of them said, I wish I had have started earlier. Yeah. Because the thing is, like, you look at prices today, and you might be worrying that you're overpaying by 30, 50 grand. But in 7 to 10 years' time, if that property's doubled in value,
it's irrelevant.
Exactly. You won't care about it.
Yeah, it's a big one. I've got a framework that I always kind of try to assist first home buyers with, that especially on the Gold Coast. What I find, it's called BCC. So it's beautiful, it's cheap, and it's close. And what I find is, it's nearly like a little 3-sided triangle. BCC, beautiful, cheap, and close. So most first home buyers are always looking for all three, right? Sometimes on the Gold Coast, you've got to understand we're in a very great market. It's moving market. Sometimes there might have to be a slight compromise on one of those three things. So for first home buyers out there, instead of trying to hit all three, beautiful, cheap, and close, maybe the ability and understand, if you can hit 2 of the 3, and play around with it, and what you'll identify is the, beautiful and close, but, you want those 2 things, but then you've got to compromise on it being cheap. You're probably going to have to pay more. If you want something that's cheap and close, you're probably going to get a renovator. It's not going to be so beautiful, So play around with that triangle if you're first home buyer, and understand, what is it for you if you're looking at existing stock out there, that what do I have to compromise on? Because the compromise versus the inability to get into the market, if you weigh those 2 up, I know which one I'd be compromising on, because compromising on doing nothing and staying in the same position is costing you a lot of money right now.
Yeah. And it's not just the Gold Coast. Like, you Gold Coast, Brisbane, Melbourne, like the same thing applies no matter where you go. But what I like, and again, I talk about this ad nauseum, when it comes to buying your first car, everyone, not everyone, but you might want a Lamborghini or a Ferrari or an Aston Martin or whatever the hell it is. But that that's not going to be your first car. Your first car is going to be a 20-year-old Honda Civic. But you get it because you know you need it, and you prefer owning your 20-year-old Honda Civic as opposed to renting space on a bus. But for some reason, when it comes to people's first home, they think that they can begin. They can begin at the Aston Martin, and it's not to say that you shouldn't have big dreams. Like, I think you really should, and you can use property to leverage yourself to that over time. But, all these people you see in McMansions, they didn't begin there.
Yeah.
They began with an affordable property. And you're right, you've got to compromise.
I really like that. Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. With the car thing. Yeah. Very true. Yeah. I think as well, in today's age, a lot of people are getting lost in the, keeping up with the Joneses and, what their friends are doing and things like that. Like, I always say, just stay in your lane. Do what suits you. Well, like, why even buying this property in the first place? A lot of people are trying to put themselves in a position where they can buy the dream home straight away and put themselves up in huge stress. Maybe it's creating a plan of leapfrogging your way there and building slow wealth at the end of the day.
Yeah. So talk to me about, what do you mean? How do I do this?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many different ways to skin a cat, right, at the end of the day. I think the best way is always starting with a finance broker or just chatting to someone to see where you're at in terms of finances, see if it's even possible. When I talk around leapfrogging, I think the ability to, again, get in the market before getting priced out is your best option to try and leapfrog. So potentially one thing that a lot of people don't look at too is rent vesting as well. Like, you don't always have to live in your first home either. So there's all different options. Or maybe it is you live in something, but maybe it's not a home straight away. Maybe it could be a unit or something like that. So just trying to build wealth, build some equity, then go again in maybe 1 to 2 years and kind of leapfrogging your way there. I just think, again, like we said before, a lot of first home buyers especially do think they want the dream home straight away versus, hey, what about we try and build our way there, get some assets along the way. So buying with the intent that this may not be the forever home, but it could be the, forever investment that's going to get me there.
Do you think social media culture is driving that I've got to have the best to begin with and I deserve it? Or what do you think drives it?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a huge one. A lot of the great property investors I know, when I listen to their stories and get to know them, a lot of them really started off, if you listen to anyone, they started off with very basic property and probably locations that you'd lift your eyebrows at and be like, why did you buy there?
Yeah.
So it's nearly understanding and detaching yourself that the property is an asset. It's not always something you have to live in. So it's just kind of breaking that mentality, I think, is a huge one people struggle to overcome.
Any thoughts on the election, the government, like the budget, some of the things that brought out around housing? Obviously, housing is the hot topic at the moment.
Always, yeah.
Yeah. You got any thoughts on what's potentially coming up?
Yeah, look, with the government, it's one thing too, the government can change things whenever they want, really. And that's what I always say. If you stick to the fundamentals with property and don't get caught up too much on what, the government's doing and things like that, I think that's a good place to start, because I see some first home buyers too, they'll nearly make decisions based on what the government might do or changes. So I always say, if you buy with the fundamentals in place, we can never control what the government does at the end of the day, right? So just buying with that in mind. But in terms of, will the government do things to help buyers? Obviously, it sounds like they're always trying to put things in place. I think any sort of grants for first home buyers is only a positive, really, to get people into the market. We were chatting before around, potential concessions based on certain price points, things like that. I just think at the end of the day, the government is, I nearly see it as like a cherry on top if something was to come. So buy with the envision that there will be no government incentives, but if it does come, it's only a cherry on top. But I always find around elections, the market might chill for a bit. I always find just on based on previous years. So I find that actually a really good time to potentially buy it too, because a lot of buyers sit on the fence and waiting and seeing what happens with government selection. So that's a little tip there, that anything around an election could be a really strong time to potentially buy in isolation.
Yeah. I find with government intervention, there always seems to be unintended consequences. And we're obviously in the first home buyer space. So, you know, the government says we're going to make it easier for first home buyers to get in. I'm all for it.
Yeah,
it's good for our clients. It's good for our business. I love it. But and I think I was saying this earlier, the unintended consequence will be that it will push prices up. So, you know, if you're a first home buyer and you get in ahead of the curve, knowing that most first home buyers are slower to act, then, you know, you're going to benefit from that. If you're an investor, same thing. Like I'm telling you, something will happen with housing, regardless of who wins the election. And I'd bet my bottom dollar it will push prices up.
Yeah.
So
sure.
if you're an investor, you know, the advantage that you've got is experience, and experience means that you are, generally speaking, quicker to decision than what owner-occs are. So there's a really good opportunity there.
Yeah. And just on that, Leigh, just come to me actually. Any buyer who's say they're out of the market at the moment and they're waiting for maybe a government incentive or change, or they heard something's coming and that will give them confidence to buy. I always say, remember, any sentiment and confidence that passes down from government to the masses is positive, because we want to stimulate people buying. But just remember, it's going to create more competition, because most buyers are emotional buyers. And it may take a government change for them to actually act and come off the fence. So remember, if you're doing what 99% of people are doing and waiting for the feeling of being confident and ready to go, you're most likely going to be in more competition. So it's just something to be mindful of too, is if you've got the ability to buy now, your finances are in check, you feel comfortable and confident, sometimes don't worry what the sentiment on the media is doing. If you can responsibly buy now, you know, you're going to be in a better position.
Yeah, get in first. Get in ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
definitely. Any thoughts on the property market? I know you're obviously Queensland based, so any thoughts on the Queensland property market, or even what you're seeing happen nationally?
Yeah, I mean, in my personal life, I'm a property investor at heart. I love checking all the markets. As a business, we service the Gold Coast, so we obviously keep a real close eye on that. I think nationally, number one is that don't be surprised if places like Victoria are going to get some spike over the next few years. And it might seem controversial and people might disagree, but again, my opinion is I'm always looking for the next hotspot. I don't look at the hotspot now. I always look at the next hotspot. Migration, you know, if you look at the population down in Victoria and what's available, there isn't much. It's just kind of so stagnant. It doesn't make sense based on, you know, the income growth and the nationally. It just doesn't make sense. So I'd keep an eye on it. That's all I'm going to say with Victoria.
I have gotten so much hate on the internet for this, but I will go to my grave on this. I am telling you, Melbourne property prices somewhere in the next 6 to 18 months are going to rocket up. And the problem people have is they just live in the current moment. So Victoria's gone through a bad time. There's no denying that. But it can't remain where it is. It's going to be Australia's largest city, and it is currently Australia's 5th or 6th most expensive city, it's cheaper to buy in Melbourne than it is to buy in Adelaide or Perth.
Yeah.
And that's nothing against Adelaide or Perth, but Melbourne is one of our premier cities, about to be our largest city. And I spend a lot of time down there with our business, and Melbourne is starting to move. I was in the city the other day, and the city used to be a ghost town post-COVID. There were people everywhere. But then if I look, and I said this on previous podcasts, and people told me what an idiot I was, but I said I can see it in what's happening on the ground. So land developers are starting to be more difficult to deal with, and the reason they're being more difficult to deal with is they're starting to get a flood of inquiries from investors. You can see that pre-approvals in Melbourne were up something like 25 or 30%. And then that started to move on to price growth. So it was only a small price growth, but Melbourne went up by, I think, 0.9%, which is the turn. I'm telling you, it is about to happen. If you are thinking about buying in Melbourne, do it now. You are going to make bank in the next couple of years. I look forward to your comments on the internet.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Sometimes, again, like we said before, it's not always following the masses too. And I think Melbourne's a really attractive market if you've got good Melbourne's a really good market, I think, too, if you've got good cash flow reserves, or you can hold a property comfortably. You're not going to get something super cash flow positive or anything like that. It's more of a growth play. And if you can hold a property down there, good location, yes, it might be a bit negative because rental growth hasn't quite caught up yet. Again, you're going to get the juice of it, because once that yield compression rises and it's going to be a bit more cash flow positive, everyone's going to see the growth. You're buying with more competition again. So that's exactly what we were saying before. Sometimes the good investors, act when, it's the old Warren Buffett, right? Act when others are fearful, and sell when others are greedy, kind of thing. So there's opportunity, I think, for sure.
Yeah.
I guess time will tell, right? Time will tell.
And for Queensland?
Yeah. Again, personal life, I've really invested hard in Queensland over the last decade. I just think Southeast Queensland, not only from a capital growth point of view, the cash flow has always been pretty steady, but obviously the Olympics is a huge cherry on top now, the amount of infrastructure. And then I think post-COVID, the amount of people who migrated to Southeast Queensland on factors outside of just the data points. Sometimes you can't put a price on just having a better lifestyle, better weather, more sunshine. So I've just seen a huge uplift of those types of buyers come into these markets, and they're there to stay. They're not there to come in and sell out and then bounce back around. They're planting their children in these suburbs, going to schools and things like that. So real good positive. And the great thing is, again, with Southeast Queensland, population growth is growing, migration's growing, but supply levels, there's not much accessible land in it's very landlocked, Southeast Queensland. So again, supply and demand, right? I just see that it will continue to push.
Yeah, particularly if you're looking at somewhere like the Gold Coast. So you're going Coolangatta up to Pimpama, Ormo, and then at the back you've got the hinterland. Everything's built in.
Landlocked, yeah.
So there's only one way to go now, which is up.
Yeah. Exactly right. So if you can secure some assets on, 100% land to asset, right, like a house, a standalone dwelling in a landlocked area, again, you just look at it and you're like, it can't go down. Like there's as long as people are still wanting a roof over their head, the demand is there, the migration's there. It just makes sense from a long-term perspective.
Let's wrap this up. So if you were to give one piece of advice to an aspiring first home buyer, what would it be?
I think one of my biggest tips with first home buyers is always to understand, firstly, how to buy, not what to buy as a start. I think the ability of understanding how to buy in terms of how does the contract process work? How does the open homes work? If you're doing maybe a house and land, like understanding how does the cost breakdowns work? What does the conversations with real estate agents sound like? It's just kind of getting all of these experience points up first before you actually put offers in. And I say that because I use the analogy, when I first rode a bike, I had training wheels on, and you'd get used and you'd fall over a bit, and then after a while you take the training wheels off and then you're off and running. When it comes to buying property, it's a free-for-all in terms of your competition. There's people out there who are on training wheels, but they're trying to compete with people who are on mountain bikes and they're flying. It's just going to be very hard for them to ever get ahead like that. So I always say focus on how to buy first, understand who you need in your corner. If you need help with that, is it a buyer's agent? Is it a solicitor, broker? Or get people in your corner to help you get confident. And then when you feel ready, now you can focus on what to buy. I think first home buyers nearly got it the other way around. They're always so focused on like what to buy. But then when push comes to shove, they have no idea how to actually buy, and they're not confident. It goes back to our saying before, inaction, because they're just scared and unsure. So that's why I always say that they're trying to ride the bike without training wheels first. So chuck the training wheels on, and then you'll fly a lot quicker, I reckon.
Yeah. I mean, shameless plug for my book here, but no. So in First Home Foundations, we go through exactly the same thing, just worded differently. So there's kind of 5 steps to it. The first step is affordability. So begin at what's realistic. Then you're looking at preparation. So, get your finances in order. If you've got bad debts, close them. The next one, which you were talking to quite strongly there, was network.
Yeah,
you need experts. You can't do it on your own. And then for us, because we're all first home buyers, then the next step is support. So, if you're trying to save up a 20% deposit, for most people on a regular wage in Australia, there was some stats done on this by Finder, I think, of all people, but it's like 12 years to save a deposit, which is bananas.
Yeah.
So if you can get some government assistance, so $30,000 FOG in Queensland, the first home guarantee, so you don't have to pay LMI. If you can get support, that's going to bring that forward by years, like by 10 years.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah. And then the final step, we call it style, but it's then you're like, okay, then where do I want to live? What do I want it to look like?
Love it.
But you've got to do all the other stuff first. And people, and I understand why, they begin at the end. They get on realestate.com.au or TikTok.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, and look at these amazing things which are, they're 20 years time houses, not now. You've got to, there's grunt work that you've got to do at the front end.
Yeah, it's a huge one. And one other key tip, I think, with first home buyers who are gearing in, I call it like the 90-day cleanup. So cleaning up your finances and spending habits, and understanding when you go in for your loan application, you want to be as clean as you can, especially for your first one, and presenting a good case to the banks or your broker out there that they will lend you money. A lot of first home buyers don't understand. They're looking at some of your statements and subscriptions and things like that. So if you're thinking of buying in 90 days time, I'd start cleaning things up now. Do you need to cancel any subscriptions that you're not using? Like, can you just sacrifice those things?
Got to get rid of that OnlyFans subscription.
Get rid of some of the subscriptions. If it requires maybe 3 months of sacrifice of eating out less, or is it a case of, potentially moving back home or anything like that? The sacrifice of the 90-day cleanup could literally change the budget and borrowing capacity for when it does come time to buy. So that's a big one, the 90-day cleanup for first home buyers. Know about it, but make sure you actually execute on it. It'll really, really help them. Yeah,
and you got to know what to look at, right? So we've got a similar thing, but we call it the finance ready plan. So you got to know what the bank's going to look at, and when they're looking at giving you a loan, they will look at 3 things when it comes to the buyer. So the level above that is they look at the buyer, the block, and the building. But zeroing in on the buyer, they're going to look at your servicing, which is your income versus your expenses, which includes, subscriptions, kids, eating out, all of that stuff. They're going to look at your credit history. And then finally, they're going to look at your deposit and costs.
Yeah.
So, but the problem is, if you go to a bank before you've got that sorted out, which is what a lot of first home buyers do, particularly if you go direct to a bank, or even if you go to a less than awesome broker, they will just go, nah, sorry, we can't help you, or your borrowing capacity is 300,000, rather than saying, hey, this is what you need to do, this is how you could fix it. Because for a broker, it's a lot of hard work. You're a first home buyer, you're a comparatively very small loan, so it's more work for less money for them. Or if you're talking to a bank employee, they don't care. They're just they're punching their ticket, getting their hourly rate. So you got to know what to look at. Got to work with the right people. I think this is just a very long-winded way of agreeing with you.
100%. No, you nailed it.
All right, Matt, if people are looking for you, where can they find you? You on socials? Where are you?
Yeah, on the socials, just Matt _Srama, SRAMA, and the SramaGroup.com. Reach out. Got a great team on the coast, and just know, as Leigh said too, and like yourself, mate, like you got to surround yourself with the right people, right sort of mentors, and sometimes just surrounding yourself around the right thing. So yeah, our social media's got a lot of content and stuff too. So just to get people in the right headspace, I think is a big one, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, mate, thanks for having me. It's been an unreal chat.
Mate, thanks for coming in.
Anytime. Thanks, mate.